Hello, welcome back to Sverchok Live In this episode, we're gonna take a look at animation nodes and how you can generate like a primitive kind of objects using animation nodes. So this is kind of new in the animation node 2.1, and I'm using Blender version 2.8 beta. All right, so let's get started. I always try to show you which version of Blender because we are kind of like in the in between and everything is still being developed. But it's kind of like it's not really production ready, but you can actually work on it. Um, so yeah, switch to animation nodes, and in here we have new node tree. We create a new node tree, and let's jump into it right away. Primitive, right? We cannot search primitive, but if you Shift A or Control A, or Control A is for search, I recommend you to just use Shift A and go under mesh. There's generators, line, grid, circle, cylinder, unity, triangles. So that's interesting, right? But let's pick up actually circle. Everything else we can try later. So we have circle mesh, and we need some kind of output. If I'm not wrong, there's actually like a context thing that you can do with animation nodes. So, okay, if you select the nodes and then hit W, so you get this viewer. It show you this gonna generate 11 vertices, edges, indices, and then polygon indices. Um, but in order to generate an output, normally the way I search is just like this: mesh output, mesh object output, and you can see this blue output, baby blue output, and this plug it into the mesh. And the idea is here to create a new mesh object. It's going to be called a target, and it's put in under collections. Let's save this as animation nodes primitive. This is actually my first time using it, and you don't see anything. You need to turn it on. Now you can see a mesh object, right? And you have this control like radial loop, inner loop, but there's also outer radius, but you can't really see what's going on. So it's a good idea for our target object here. Just display the edges, display wireframe or all edges. Okay, all edges. So currently, by default, the coloring is a little bit too bright. If I deselect it, double tap A, now we can see the object. But if I select it, it's a bit too bright, I think. Anyhow, so now we can see what's going on. Radial, inner loops, all the fancy stuff. And if I'm not wrong, there's also with Blender 2.8, normally animation nodes menu is on the left. Sverchok is on the left still. It needs to be switched to the right, I think. See animation nodes. We have this control. So if you want to have like a data input, like integer or input, for this, you can have it over here. Or enable show in viewport. Okay, select this. Advanced node setting, show in viewport. Now we can see this input controller, or like in Blender we call it properties, or sometimes it's called parameter, or also called attributes. But anyhow, so we have this when we have our target, which is a circle. Don't worry about that for now. So radial loop, inner loop. There's other options like merge center. So without the center being merged, you get a ring. So that's really handy. And you can easily make like a spider web this way, you know, like if you have this guy selected and you apply like a wireframe modifier, so that's worked really nicely. That's really cool. Let's get rid of that. So, and there's also merge start and end. So that's also can come in handy. With this turn off, you have the start and end angle, so you can, in a way, you can animate this. So that's also nice, and you can. This is all procedural. It's all nice, and if you want to do anything fancy, just turn it on. Turn on the matte cap. For now, I won't be doing like instancing, but you can do that. I don't know if it's gonna work with like a multiple value stuff like Sverchok. Check. Oops, maybe I turn off my notification for now. Do not disturb. Okay. So with animation nodes, remember you can use object transform output if you ever want to move your objects in position or in rotation, scale, whatsoever. If I delete that, this being applied, the transform is not being applied. If you really want to work inside the mesh, you need to use like maybe apply or transform mesh. Yeah, this is also still kind of new on me, and we use like compose matrix. So if you do this and then rotate it and scale it, this being applied on the fly. So you can see it's not, we don't have the transform information anymore. So this actually applied underneath. So for now, don't worry about that. So we have our mesh circle. Let's create another different one. Select everything, new target. So target now, what is this one gonna be? Let's try mesh to mesh generators. Line, grid, cylinder. Okay, cylinder is also nice. See, okay, I'm gonna do this again. Object transform output, because I don't want them to be on top of each other. Okay, so cylinder mesh, height, resolutions, cap on, cap off. So nothing much. But one thing you want to notice is this material indices. So this is also kind of new. Maybe that's something that I will talk about in another live noding. Material indices, you can have like, because each object can have multiple materials, right? Remember that. And with multiple materials, you can kind of assign material indices. So that's very important. With a cylinder of animation nodes, you will see it's not like it's not as robust as Sverchok one yet. I'm gonna show you with a Sverchok cylinder, and if I output it using Sverchok, it's gonna be like this. And with Sverchok matrices, is the kind of like that. It's different. So it's either like maybe eventually Sverchok animation nodes become like a single kind of unit, kind of Sverchok become like Sverchok operators, call it SVOP animation node, maybe ANOP animation nodes. Yeah, but see, if you transform this cylinder using Sverchok, you can see the transformation information there. And if you want to apply the transformations, this is how you do it in Sverchok, just in case you want to know. This goes in there, this goes in there. Okay, so Sverchok cylinder slightly more advanced, just showing you that. That's a Sverchok mesh. Continue on with animation nodes. With animation nodes, you also notice that they are all kind of put inside the collections. That's actually kind of nice. Animation node already have collections. It used to be called group. Now we have collection by name, collection input, collection info. We don't have put into collection yet, I think. So it's gonna be for the next one. So cylinder is cool. Let's continue on with mesh generators. Line. Line can be handy. Line is probably, you probably want it to be a curve. Let's try grid. So grid, this is also the first time I'm using this. Again, object transform. With this guy, we have control over, okay, we have subdivision. This is, I think I talked about this at some point. So it's got length, width, size, step. Okay, step, also kind of handy. And it doesn't have control over the axis of the plane yet. So let's continue on. Oh, by the way, the mesh object output can be type of vertices, B-mesh, and mesh. Those three are really interesting. If you ever want to generate just vertices, I think you can use random vector, multiple vector, and then just plug this into the vertices. Amount of vertices. Or maybe I did it wrong. Maybe I shouldn't do that. It should be like this, maybe. Yeah. So that's vertices, of course. And you want to object transform output. You want to do that. Okay. So vertices, circle, cylinder, grid. I kind of skipped the line. Maybe I should actually use the line anyway. Kind of curious. So search line. So if I search line, I need to go down. Line mesh. Okay. Line mesh in animation nodes have start and end and a step, which is kind of interesting if you think about it. I forgot what's the. There must be like a shortcut to create this. So Q, no, Y, U. Don't worry about it. Mesh object, anyway, this is gonna be the new target. Mesh, it's gonna be line. See if we can see any line. Target number 6. Is the line not visible? Line, I don't see any line, so it's kind of weird. Maybe it's not working. So line, maybe there's a bug. Let's continue. And unity triangle, that's also new. Okay, that's unity triangle. Check. and I try to move it and it doesn't move. Maybe there's a bug there. So that's working. Oh, I don't have target. That's interesting. New target and move it. Okay, so I accidentally made 2 unity triangle mesh. Maybe just like a triangle in a way, but you can always scale it again. So this should be pretty useful. Transform mesh. So mesh and then compose matrices, not combine. Combine is for smaller things like combine float. Compose is to create matrices, transform. So we can transform our triangles, for example. So we have another mesh over there, on off. Okay, we can delete that. Just rename this. Okay, just leave it like that. So we can scale the triangle. So with the transform, seems like we are, when we scale, it's scaling from that point. That's a thing, maybe with the pivot and stuff. Or I mean, you can scale it from here and translate. Okay, that's this is the one that's applied before, and this is the one that's you apply after. Leave this as it is. So if we go back to this preview, all right, file, save as primitive. So okay, so in this one we really have looked at how you can generate random points, grid, cylinder, circle. It's all like the basic stuff, right? But you just, if you're new to animation nodes and new to Blender 2.8, this should be pretty useful for you. See, each one of them have a different type. What we don't have is this guy. Somehow I cannot see edges. Maybe it's there. Maybe this guy is there, but we just don't see the wireframe. I can see the data there, the data vertices and edges, but no polygon. That's interesting. So if I duplicate it, if I go to edit mode, see, we can see something. Now we can see an object. So it is there, it's just maybe a little bug. Okay, but anyhow, that's a quick look at primitives objects or mesh that you can generate on the fly inside animation nodes. And you can animate any kind of attribute here. Maybe not normally you will animate the transform, like, you know, translate, rotation, scale. But with this guy, you can go inside and then you animate the inside. Especially, I think the one that's really useful is the circles. If you ever want to animate this, and you can play around with this, you know, see this kind of animations is actually, it's as simple as it seems. It is not simple if you ever want to create it from scratch. But this is really, really handy to create. Have you ever, if you ever try Apple Watch, there's this kind of ring that you need to complete every day, like for walking, running, and standing. So this, you can recreate that using animation nodes. So yeah, that's super handy. Or you know, just animate a Pac-Man. yeah, all the basic stuff. We've seen this in the past with Sverchok. With animation nodes, it's really kind of new. And once you understand this, you can actually access the mesh. This is kind of for the preview. You can go, mesh info, and you have access to all the vertices coordinates, indices, polygon, vertex normal, etc. All the good stuff that's coming on for the next video, I think. But anyhow, this is the basic of primitive mesh in animation nodes, Blender 2.8 beta, animation nodes 2.1. Hopefully you find this useful. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Bye.